Perfect. So we are here, we have a quorum. First order of business is to accept the minutes of the July 19th regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Carrie. Visitor comments and petitions. Is there anybody that wants to raise anything that's not on the agenda? All right, with that, we will go to the ferry service update, and John King is here in person.
Do you want to talk about my memo too, or do you?
Yeah,
You want some time to try to?
yeah, I think we can do it, all of it together.
Okay, that would be great. I think you have my memo to you folks. And, of, July 24th. At the Ferry Service Advisory Board, we were told that they're working on a new tariff, which they've been planning to do all along. Tariff 9 that we're on was intended to last 4 years. That's up this fall. And they're shooting for October for to implement. But I'm not sure that they can do that with the APA, because they need to publish their proposed rates and then have a time for response. And so we'll get a chance to respond to that. I thought it would be helpful if before they publish it, they've asked for input. And that was the reason for my memo to you of July 24th. The proposed necessary funds are about 1.3 million, which represents an increase of about 18% of quote fare box revenue. Fare box revenue being tickets, reservations, parking, anything they're bringing in. Based on the numbers, it seems justified to me anyway. The increases are primarily in personnel costs. They are in fuel costs, and they are in repair costs. Ultimately, the repair costs will go down as we replace an aging fleet. Personnel costs are not going to go down. The fuel costs may go down depending upon what gets billed, including hours. Oh, and by the way, I presented them with a copy of the minutes from the meeting in which the select board unanimously recommended George Mitchell's name as for the next vessel, and gave that to Bill Palmer, who was giving it to Bruce Van Note, the commissioner of DOT. So, and the board voted unanimously to the advisory board recommended that, just so you both know. So that didn't work. So the issue is going to be how do you come up with that 1.3 million bucks a year in a manner, and this was actually pretty good, because usually, as you may know, they're not usually inviting us to participate in this exercise, and this time they are, which is pretty cool, I thought. And so it allows us to think about some ways to minimize the hurt, so to speak. There have been some ideas that have been bandied about, and I just want to run them by you. I'm not looking for a vote tonight, but if you like some more than others, and you can let me know that, I can just get back to Bill Palmer and say the initial thoughts are positive in regard to X, Y, or Z. So let me run that by you. You know, everyone knows that we've got a peak versus non-peak season now. The peak season is 4 months, and the non-peak season is 8. And the prices go up peak season. And one thought we had, I talked to Gabe about this as well, would be to allocate as much more of that increase as you can to the peak season when the demand is high. And what we saw the last time with Tariff 8 was that prices went up so high that the ridership went down. Which, according to my brother-in-law, who knows a lot more about this than I, because I'm not a businessman, it's called demand destruction. And so the idea is to try to avoid that. And if you put most of the money into the peak season when the demand is high, very high anyway, and probably will not get hit as hard, that would be good. And the other thing that would be good is for the rest of us to live here most of the year, it wouldn't be allocated to those other 8 months. So that seems to be, to the people I've spoken with so far, being received reasonably favorably. The problem is we don't have the data to tell, I don't have the data to tell you what the revenue from this island or from the entire system is for peak versus non-peak. I talked to John Emerson at North Haven, who's the chair of the advisory board, and he tells me that he spoke with Bill Puller today, who was actually going to try to run some numbers with his accounting folks. But in concept anyway, that's, to me, makes some sense. The other, another item, and this is why I asked Janet to pass around, this is the possibility of increasing reservation costs. They've already hit us harder than the other islands. The other islands, you can get a reservation for $12. We're at 20. Mainly because we're kind of an easy target, I think. But so these are the numbers, and I just ran some really rough stuff here, but if, for example, this information comes from Rocket Res, which is the outfit that if you want to buy a ticket on the internet, you can buy, they do that, and they keep track of this stuff. So in the 13 months since they came on board, we've had about 12,000 vehicle reservations and about 3,700 truck reservations. And on the vehicle side, if you divide that by 13, you get about 926 a month. Now you could do you could up reservations peak season, or you can up them all year long. Peak season is probably going to not be hit by demand destruction as much as say February or January, because people know they don't need reservations anyway. But you can run these numbers as well as I can. But what I did was, and this is very rough, but 13 months works out to 926 reservations a month. Peak season is probably higher than that, because I don't think we have all that many reservations in January and February. So I ballparked it to say 1,500 reservations a month during peak season. That means that at $20 a month, $20 a vehicle for times 1,500 is $30,000. If you go to if you go to $30 a vehicle, it goes up to 45,000. If you go to $50, it goes up to 75,000. And if you multiply 45,000 by 4, you're getting $180,000 as opposed to 120,000. If you do it by 50, you're getting 300,000. And then if you look at the other islands, it's pretty similar, even except it's a little bit more extraordinary because they're at 12 and we're at 20. So an up would generate more revenue. I think what I would recommend is that is an increase, or that we recommend an increase, because whatever we do is going to be a recommendation anyway, during the peak season in about the $30 range, and recommend that it be across the board, that all islands. And if you do that, I think you're looking at about a potential increase of somewhere in the $400,000 range, which is a fairly considerable, that we're talking 1.3 million. So now you're down below $1 million that you can allocate around other ways. So that's another option. Let me see. I did raise a true island resident rate with DOT. Bruce Van Note, the commissioner, back when we were doing the tariff wars with Tariff A, did not like the island origin rate system because he perceived it as the system was being gamed, quote unquote. And a lot of people did this. They buy 10 tickets and send them to Uncle Bob out in Milwaukee, who was coming out for 3 weeks in August. And there wasn't anything that said you couldn't, and there wasn't anything that said you shouldn't, but it did I mean, the price was half, so you're kind of crazy if you didn't, but he didn't like it, and I get it, and we need revenue, right? So my point to DOT when I talked to them is why not do it in a way that is controllable? In other words, have some sort of system, and you have to keep in mind, you want customer service people to be able to do this too. So you might just say, driver's license has to say Alsbro. You could do it other ways too. You could have an approved list, but the town clerk could give to the folks at the ticket office or something like that. And then just tell them, don't make it illegal or anything, but say, look, if you start, if all of a sudden your tickets are being seen by a car that's going back and forth and they happen to have Florida plates and they're full of kids, and we know they don't live here, you can't buy these tickets anymore. So that's an option. I think it would be a hard sell, but I think it would be a good sell. It's a hard sell until you think about, wait a minute, how many people live here year round that are, have Islesboro licenses and all that kind of stuff? And it's really not a huge revenue driver, but it would be nice to be able, and those people are the ones that I think, from my perception, don't get to use the ferry as much as they would like. And so you're talking 600 people. So, anyway, so that's another option. I've advocated in favor of a more friendly commuter policy and also a reduced senior citizen rate. My sense is that they don't see that as revenue drivers, but I see it as kind of something that would enhance the consumer perception of this operation.
Well, the seniors are on fixed income for the most part.
Yeah.
So these little changes in the revenue can affect them.
Oh, quite a bit. No, I
Yeah.
think it would have a huge impact on senior citizens, I think. And the other thing is, literally every other ferry service in the country has a senior citizen discount option, and we don't, just because I don't know why we don't. I think it's just a lack of creativity. So that's another option. Someone recommended a vehicle system based just on the length of the vehicle, but I think that would be an administrative nightmare. And the other thing they have talked about, and this would have no substantive, well, it might have a little bit of substantive impact, is instead of buying a ticket that's round trip ticket, sell one-way tickets. And all of a sudden the price goes in half. At least the perception is, price doesn't change at all, obviously, but some people might save money if they, have all these tickets that are folded over and they lose them and all that kind of stuff. So, and the perception might be that the hurt's not as bad as it really is, but I mean, they may do that anyway, but that may be coming down the pike. My thought really is that the big ticket items here that I see is maybe trying to allocate as much as you can without going overboard to the peak season ticketing. And the rest of us can hunker down as much as we can, and maybe look at reservations, because I just think, first of all, the other islands have the deal of the century at 12, but this is hard because all the different islands are different the way they do reservations. They all have different perceptions.
I was gonna say, doesn't North Haven, if you're taking a vehicle off, you already have to pay for a reservation and then you have to pay for your vehicle ticket, correct?
No, the vehicle tickets always include the driver, if that's what you're asking. But at North Haven, what they do, the reservations are so valuable in North Haven, it's not the money. Apparently what happens is, the reservations open up 30 days before you go. People get to the ticket office at 6 a.m. and get in line for a trip 30 days down the road,
Right,
which is,
because if you don't have the reservation, then you don't take your vehicle.
well, it's hard to get a car off the island. Right, exactly. And, but then the other thing that I just learned today, which is amazing to me, is on Vinyl Haven, some of the trips have no reservations at all. And I can't imagine why that would be.
They don't let you book reservations?
There are no slots on some of the trips for reservations. And why that is beyond me. It's probably some historical anomaly that no one understands. Phil Crossman will let me know. So I never knew that existed.
Maybe because they have two ferries
Yeah, they do.
going
So,
back one, maybe.
but I'm not sure why. I'm just not, I don't know what.
If it wasn't more to compete with the North Haven part of it, if it's very hard to ever get a vehicle off because you don't have a reservation, then if you have 2 trips a day, that it's first come, first served, no matter what.
Then you can get off if you get up.
You have a
early.
better you have a better line for it.
Right, but I think with us at 20 and the rest of the islands at 12, the real problem is reservations just at that price are not driving a lot of revenue. And that's what we need to do, I think, is get more revenue. And I don't think it would drop off that much, but at least during the peak season. So, that would be my thoughts, and, that's all I have to say, unless if you wanna give me some feedback, I can send it over to Augusta.
Did you drop the $100 reservation fee?
I
Concept anymore?
don't think 100 will fly. I personally, philosophically, I'd try to push 50, but, but that's,
You'll sell them. You'll sell them at 50, no problem.
I know, as someone who uses reservations regularly for business, to me, like 30 feels like I can swallow 30. Anything over 40, and I'd be like, I'll put a car in line over at night rather than buy a ferry,
Yeah, you're getting into
there's a
demand
tipping- there's a tipping
destruction.
point.
Yeah.
I think you're getting into demand destruction if you go to 5, and it's hurting businesses who, I mean, that's part of reservations are people that can afford it, and we'll still get a reservation if it goes up to 50. But there are a lot of businesses that I think that would be hit by that.
Well, another thought I had is maybe have a 2-tier system where if you have a main commercial plate, you have one rate and everybody else has another.
Are commercial or trucks, cause I noticed that the truck reservations and vehicle reservations, are trucks a different cost? Or are they $20 too?
No, they're the same.
So the reservation is the same for.
Yeah.
Truck or car, isn't
Yeah, I think the reservation right now is the same, but if you had main commercial plates limited to 25 or even, I mean, I think the way to try it out would be to say, take it across the board to 30 and see if it generates revenue, and if we can get the rest of it under $1 million or something like that, and then put a load of that onto the peak season, people will see their rates go up, but I don't think they're gonna, you've got the illustration of what it's gonna be if it's just 18% across the board. So all I'm trying to suggest are some strategies to lessen that pain.
I personally, I like the first 2 suggestions about the reservations and about loading and peak if we can. I think those are great suggestions. I like the idea of a reduced senior citizen option, but I feel like that has the potential to, without some kind of like main resident or island resident, that has the potential to really damage what we're trying to accomplish, because we're
The majority of our island. is
right.
senior citizens.
I mean,
Majority of the state,
it's,
right?
right, Maine is a very old
That's
state, so yeah.
They're all.
Yeah, but that demographic has to go to the doctors more often and go to the hospital and so forth.
Yeah.
If it was an
Right.
island resident.
If it was an island resident, yeah.
Situation, I would be all for it, but how you make that work
Yeah.
is difficult.
Yeah, there
Otherwise-
may be some legal issues if you try to
Right.
differentiate between elderly
Right,
residents of Islesboro and other elderly residents.
right. And I don't know, I'm sure we don't have the data on that, but that would be my only caution, I guess, on thinking about that option is how much would it potentially disrupt what we're trying to accomplish just because of the demographics?
Any
What-
thoughts
what are
on, island resident tickets?
Didn't we go through that before and they said you couldn't?
I think they're wrong. I mean, they're
You're a
saying,
lawyer.
well, they're saying there are all kinds of legal obstacles, but keep in mind, the first time that they came out with the proposed tariff 8, the pricing structure was X for Maine residents, 2X for anybody else. So, I
If you
mean,
can do that, if that's the way.
Then what?
What about by using their voter registration?
well, that was one of my thoughts too, was using a voter registration and.
Because then it's a statewide system that it's dependent upon where you vote from, and that declares your residency. It's not just a driver's license.
That'd be a nightmare for the people working there. Oh, excuse me, why did you say you have to look up the voter list and see if they're?
Well, there are ways, there could be ways to minimize the hurt. I mean, of course, with elder, but like if you use Rocket Res, supposedly you can create an account, but you can't right now because they haven't gotten around to like making that sophisticated enough to do it.
Right.
But if you could create an account as a senior citizen and just have it be automatic and all you gotta do is buy a ticket on the computer and you don't even have to deal with the customer service. I mean, I think there are ways to do it. And keep in mind, I mean, look at all these towns around that, if you're a town resident, you get a beach sticker. But if you're not a town resident, you don't. Or even using the transfer station. I mean, they're like Yarmouth, if you have to, number one, be a town resident in order to have the ability to buy a sticker for the transfer station. I mean, it's ridiculous. So,
There have to be other ferry systems around the country and around the world that have figured this out. I'm just thinking I know you've looked into that a little bit.
I did, yeah, and, well, most, the resident thing, I think the Massachusetts Steamship Authority makes a big difference between residents and non-residents. Most every ferry system in the country and in the world, I think, has a senior citizen discount. No.
I mean, Disneyland or Disney World even has the Florida residents, but they distinguishing between us.
So I mean, I think that's a little bit of a red herring argument that we can't do this kind of stuff, but I think it would be nice to try to push it anyway. With some concessions about, okay, we'll try to come up with a system so people don't game it, quote unquote.
So, if, with this discussion about increasing the cost of reservations, I've never put these pieces together, that a reservation for like mild Subaru would have cost the same amount as a reservation for a dump truck. And does it seem like maybe we could make some money up there and charge a different reservation for a very large dump truck? Say, because we charge by the foot for an oversized vehicle, but then when an oversized vehicle gets a reservation, they don't seem to do that. Is that the case? Or
They only,
That's correct.
correct, but they only sell a certain number of trucks and a certain number of vehicle reservations. So I don't know exactly how they balance that, but
it
Four
seems like
and
that could be
two, something like 4 cars and 2 trucks.
No, it's per trip.
The
Well, the
reservation
trucks are
is in
paying more
addition to the
anyway,
ticket.
on the fare side.
So they're paying their bigger ticket plus the reservation.
But that's a good thought.
Yeah, it's confusing. It seems fresh.
So,
just timeline wise, the next steps.
well, at the board meeting, I asked for about a month, thinking I could get to maybe the end of August, which would get us through 2 select board meetings tonight and the one in 2 weeks. I got an email from, Bill Pulver sent an email out saying that he would like to hear back from, he's under the gun too because of the APA and getting this out. The last email I got from him after the meeting said he'd like to hear back by the 11th. It is totally arbitrary. And so I emailed them back and they said, well, that's really hard to do because I'm going to this meeting tonight. And we're gonna have another meeting in 2 weeks that I can go to too, once, and so I wanna present the options, and listen, if you guys think of any other wonderful ideas, that would be wonderful too. But, and then have people think about it a little bit, and get a bit more of a defined idea of what people think before I get back to you. And he understands that, but he also said, in a very ambiguous email to me, don't worry, you'll have a chance to comment. But it was kind of like, okay, comment upon the tariff that you've already published.
Is there a comment period after it's?
There is, no, there
Before
is,
it's
but the
approved.
problem is that, you know, we saw this with the last time around when we were all in Belfast and everything, and they published it, and then they get defensive about it, and they get kind of driven into the corner, and they don't want to move at all. So, I say strike while the iron is hot.
Yeah, before the ink's dry.
So Phil made a really good point that a lot of our senior citizens have to go to the doctor and everything else more often. What about a discounted rate upon, proven medical appointment?
They already have that, which nobody takes advantage of, and we're always told that they're very liberal about it.
Isn't that for if you're undergoing treatment,
Yeah,
Yeah, that's like,
something
you
versus
have to
just
get,
appointments or-
like a doctor's letter and everything.
yeah, it's a process.
With
It's
them
a
having,
form that you give to the doctor, and the doctor's office signs it and sends it directly to the state of Maine Prairie Centers. You don't see it again.
oh,
Well, one thing we could do is maybe suggest these changes and suggest a liberal, they say they're very liberal in their policies, but
but
Maybe.
if somebody doesn't have something chronic that's happening, like I have 4 kids. I probably have to, you know, if, especially younger kids, have to go off, you know, probably at least once a month anymore for well visits, physicals, everything else, you know, and a decreased rate on the vehicle that's taking them, or even a decreased rate on the minor or the adult or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But if you're leaving with the point of a medical reason, you know, regardless of anything else you can cram into that day, but at least that for year-round residents, I think would be more beneficial. Or also beneficial, not
The
necessarily
current
more.
system is just per person, it's not a carpool person.
Right, and that's, but only if it's something that is chronic.
Something that requires a certain number of office visits or treatment, and the maximum one is 20 plus. And you'll be allowed 6 months of free tickets and reservation.
And I'm not necessarily saying free, I'm just saying as like a reduced rate on it. And so for if I'm having to go over to have my physical, you know, I have to leave the island for it. And so, you know, produce a little form that says, look, I've got an appointment on this day.
Not when you're ago.
every time I've run this,
Oh, you go here.
every time I've run it up the flagpole, I'm assured that it's very liberal, and I'm sure, I harbor my suspicions. I'll go back and read the current tariff. One of the things I can say is, if we are going up, you know, whatever, if the off-season rate and the peak season rate are going up, maybe liberalize things for year-round residents, like medical,
Right.
stuff like that. I'm happy to do that.
When is the next advisory board meeting?
It won't be until,
October?
September, I believe, September.
The date?
Oh, there was, actually, the date's been short. I think it's the third Thursday in September. We had some back and forth on that, and I can't remember what the back and forth was. But it will be late September, but by then but the next advisory board, I believe it's more likely than not that we will have a proposed tariff.
I know the ferry update is also on the summer informational meeting. I don't think we'll have very much time at all, but I think it mostly will be about presenting the fact that this is happening and encouraging kind of offline conversations about ideas, generating ideas that could potentially inform, our discussion at the next select board meeting.
I've told Lauren that I'm gonna try to be at that,
Great,
so,
great.
and I'll speak very briefly about it. Off the tariff thing for a minute, the EMS thing seems to be okay. The boats, the whole idea of building a boat and having it given to Maine Maritime and having them operate and all that stuff, is a little bit on hold, because what I'm trying to do is get a meeting between DOT, Maine State Ferry Service, me, and MMA sitting around the table. And the holdup's gonna be Bill Palmer, because right now his bumper issue is the tariff thing. So, that's where we are on that,
Great,
just so you know.
thank you.
I don't know if everybody saw Janice's suggestion.
Yeah, sticker on the windshield for Islesboro residents.
That might work.
Thanks, Janice. I can.
That's incredible.
It says, why not? Why not a sticker on the windshield for Islesboro residents? We did this for the Park District parking lot at the lake where I grew up.
Well, we could, if the town polices it and passes them out.
What was the sticker on the windshield before?
Or,
Could be, aisle for residents, could be medical sticker, could be, I mean, any number of things.
Well, we could issue just cards too. I mean, you're not gonna drive your car into the ticket office, but, if you issued a Islesboro resident card or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to live down on the Cape, and part of Nauset Beach, because it belonged to Chatham, but you had to get through Orleans to do it. But if you could get a sticker that allowed you to do it, but getting it was like pulling teeth. It was very protected by the town, but you could do it. But the perception was it wasn't an easy thing to do. That's what we need to do, is make sure that we're not just passing them out to anyone who wants one, because if we do that, we're gonna lose all our credibility.
And revenue.
Yeah, exactly, Well, if it's okay with you folks, what I'm gonna say is, peak versus off-peak, put more onto the, peak season, consider increasing reservations across the board. Consider an island resident thing, but others, can do control. And, maybe a friendlier commuter policy and senior citizen option, depending upon the island resident. Does that make sense? Then I'll say, to the extent that it goes up at all, there's the concern that the medical situation be liberalized.
Would this be an effort to get everybody paying the same reservation fee for any island?
I think so. I mean, I don't know why they're at 12 and we're at 20.
Yeah, how did that happen?
That happened during the last,
Yeah, how did it, though? Why did they stay at 12 and we went up, what were we, 15 or?
No, we were
We
12.
were,
We were 12?
I think we were 12 and we went to 20 when, it was either tariff
There's
8,
nine.
which nailed everybody, like, or 9. I think it was 9, actually.
It was kind.
And I think it was perceived because, we're a revenue driver for the system. I mean, everybody knows that. I mean, instead of 3 or 4 runs a day, we've got 9 round trips a day, and this time of year, the biggest boat in the full.
Well, at one time, Oxborough paid 65% of the 50% that needs to be paid to the state for their maintenance.
Yeah, I always kind of figured in the 60% range myself.
Yeah.
It's really hard, though, because it's hard to allocate all these expenses properly. And anyway, but
Well, the numbers that you have here don't make sense either. They're not your numbers. I'm not saying you don't make sense. But when you look at that spreadsheet of information about salaries and maintenance and retirement, dental and all of those things, there are peaks, they just jump out of nowhere. But then once they make the jump, they stay flat for the rest of the company.
Well, and here's something that doesn't stay flat, and I'll just say that for you, folks, for your due consideration. The personnel costs are a huge driver of it. And one of the personnel costs that is just exploding is something called unfunded retirement liability.
Bill,
And that's a statewide problem, and it's because MEPERS has not been funded properly by anybody for years, and now they're playing catch-up ball. Next year, I predict that unfunded retirement liability will probably go over $1 million. And, you know, that's like, and I think personnel is like 6 or 7. So, I mean, $1 million out of that, that's a lot of money. And the increase that they're looking at is 1.3 million. So if we weren't paying this unfunded retirement liability, we'd be looking at a fraction of what we're looking at. I raise this about every other advisory board meeting, because Gabe and John Emerson and I are on the finance subcommittee, and I keep saying, this is nuts. Why are the users of this system paying for the state not having funded this properly 20 years ago?
Right.
And the other part of this, which I find nuts, is that most of these state agencies do not generate revenue. I mean, the AG's office doesn't generate revenue. The Department of Finance and Administration does not generate revenue. This just happened, you know, and here we are, this little dinky part of DOT that happens to generate revenue. So they put up a line item and all of a sudden it's $1 million a year. And it makes no sense, because I'm sure, like with the AG's office or finance and administration or whatever you want to talk about it, when they don't generate revenue, it's just a line item on their budget, and it's not considered an operating expense. They're just told every year how much they have to pay in, which is exactly what we're being told what we have to pay in, but it's coming out of our pockets. Well, 50% of it's coming out of our pockets.
Yeah.
And it just strikes me as crazy, but the problem is that I don't think they're ever gonna change their mind, and the only way you're gonna get them to change their mind is probably with a lawsuit. So you need accountants to say this is nuts, and, you know, experts and blah, blah, blah. But this is kind of a tipping point item too. I mean, there comes a point where if it gets something like 2 million a year, because they say that from what I'm reading, they're saying that this amount of unfunded liability, despite their efforts to correct it, may triple or quadruple in the next 10 to 15 years.
Well, there are interest payments,
I
right?
mean, even if they're willing to, I mean, if they would entertain moving it out of the operating budget calculations for the 50% tariff requirements, that,
It's kind of I prefer to see it not as an operating expense
Right.
period. The way they've got it, it's 50% subsidized by the highway.
Right. right?
But conceptually, I just don't see it as an operating expense, but I just want you folks to be aware of this. I mean, I think filing a lawsuit would cost a fortune, but at some point, if it gets big enough, there are other islands that might say, yeah, you guys are right. I just keep raising it just because I don't want the issue to go away.
Well, it seems like probably something that's more likely to happen than changing the statute that has the 50%, which seems like probably politically within the state would be very difficult to do. But if we could change the way that they allocate expenses, that feels possible.
But it's never a separate item, you just throw it in with a bunch of other things, right?
Well, it's a line item.
Oh, it is a line.
It is a line item right on the, what they call the variance report, which is basically the P and L.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a line item, and it just goes,
All right.
sorry.
No, I thank you for coming, and this is, I mean, it's a topic that is worth spending a lot of time discussing, and making sure that we're talking about it out in the community, because the last tariff 8 came as such a shock and fight that the more we can talk about it, before and get people's input before, it happens, then the better. So thank you for coming and keeping us informed and for making really thoughtful suggestions about how we can minimize the pain.
I'll try to draft something to Bill Paulin. along the lines of what I said. And, maybe what I'll do is just kind of run it by Janet and, copy or whatever I use.
I can send a draft to the board.
You can forward the draft and if I can get a quick turnaround, I'll just try to get, within maybe 24, 36 or 48 hours, I'll just print it out to Bill.
Yeah.
But the good news is they're talking to us and they're actually paying some attention to us, which, 67 years ago, that was not dynamic.
Absolutely.
Great,
Yeah,
great.
yeah, thank you. And also just want to make sure that you read sort of Janet's last comment, there could be a one-time or yearly small fee for the sticker. And then you get the island discount.
Subject to being an island resident.
Right, All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, folks. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jen. I hope that was a little.
Thanks, Janice.
Thanks, Janice. Okay, sea level rise update. Our next meeting is tomorrow at 5:30. The committee has had 2 small group discussions so far, to start to understand the questions and concerns, to inform planning for the Narrows adaptation. Both meetings, one was at the library, particularly focused on those that are landowners around the Narrows, and then the sewing circle. Both were very well attended and had really thoughtful discussion. And hopefully we will start the engineering RFQ process by the end of this month. Any questions about sea level rise?
Here's the meeting of the Hill.
Here.
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Update on municipal building project.
Oh, this coming Monday, there will be, a meeting with the, planning board. And we're hopeful that the, Islesboro Health Center, application will be approved at that point. This Friday will be a site visit at the health center by the planning board. And that may be the final step in the approval for the site and the building for the health center. We still have to have a site review for the Up Island Public Safety Garage because of problems in the site, the way we had located it, we had to change where the building was located. And so we have to now do a new site review. And that can't happen in time for the Monday meeting, but will be at the next planning board meeting. So we should have, by the end of August, we'll have all of the building site requirements through the planning board process. Fingers crossed, everybody, and we're onward and upward. It looks really good.
Any questions for Lauren?
And it's all funded, right? 100%.
Well, that's gonna come up at the information meeting. Yeah, we don't have those final figures from the construction manager yet.
Oh,
No, we don't. So it's at this point, we're operating under the assumption that everything is covered by that original 3.5.
yeah.
But as you go through the process of designing and getting all of the ducks in a row, you don't know necessarily whether you're gonna have to have a new well. You don't necessarily know whether the current system, sprinkler system, can supply the new health center. There's a lot of unknowns that are not yet resolved, all of which can cost more money. And so we don't have all of those details. All of those details that may come up may or may not have been in the original estimate. So until we get everything worked through, I can't say that we have that final dollar figure, but we're hoping. We have the construction manager coming for an information meeting. And we've asked for a timetable, which they're planning on starting construction October 1. They're sticking to that, and they're going through to the end of May. So the building will be completed by the end of May of 2024. And we've asked for a cost estimate. How are they going to know the costs? And then Janet will be working with the construction manager. We'll be signing a contract. She'll be signing a contract with them. We should have a guaranteed maximum price sometime in the next month and a half. So we're getting there, but we're not there yet. And that's a very good question.
And the plan is to start both buildings at the same time?
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, summer information meeting. I saw Janet, you sent out the flyers via constant contact, which is great. Lauren and I sort of, I meant to have a printout of this and I was running around like a crazy person before I got here. So just Lauren and I started to pass around, trying to outline how we fit everything within an hour period is the goal. It's a lot to fit in an hour, but I feel like if we go much longer, we will start to test people's patience. So we'll do.
I think Sheree could use an hour.
Right. But what we are currently kind of thinking is, have, Janet welcome everyone and do introductions to spend, about 20 minutes on the municipal building project, kind of split half and half for presentations and discussion. About 25 minutes on sea level rise with a 15-minute presentation and like 10 minutes for discussion. About a very specific 9 minutes for ferry service update for John.
I'll make it 8.5.
That's fine, yeah. I'm gonna get a little egg.
Okay, that's including question and answer. So it may be a 2-minute presentation and then no questions.
No comment.
Make sure,
And no comments allowed.
make sure John's last on the agenda.
Right.
That's gonna run on.
Yeah, so that is the last update, and then we thought we would end the meeting rather than begin with the introduction videos, so that we would end with the EMS video and potentially with the energy video, so that and then folks would be able to have time for further questions at the end of the meeting, mingling, catching up one-on-one, so that we can try to keep to the 1 hour kind of public, group session, and don't feel like people would feel awkward in leaving like we're holding them hostage. Does that sound?
It'll be a good try.
Great.
That's all I wanted to hear.
We'll start a queue for discussions with John afterward.
Leave your email.
We do have Michael Hutcherson, who will be the managing all of the media stuff. We won't be zooming it. But if you do have video, things that you want to present, like I see Kretzika online, getting her video, maybe to me, I can coordinate that with Michael.
Let's ask her, 'cause I mentioned her giving it to Michael, but maybe she,
Sure, either way is fine with me. I can send it to both of you.
If you want to get it directly to Michael, that's fine with me. That takes a little bit off of me. I did just check in and make sure Michael was on board. He knew he was going to be there on the 10th, and he's ready, yeah.
Thank you for confirming.
and hopefully Weldon will send his video to Michael. The
Doug Wilson?
ambulance, isn't the ambulance association?
Yeah.
Oh,
He's the
okay,
president.
yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good.
I can email him tomorrow and just remind him
Okay.
too.
Great. And I know, Jessica, that there was this discussion at the beginning of the meeting about edited version versus not edited version. Is it something that you want us to watch and provide any feedback on, or you feel comfortable just sending the link for what you want to show at the end of the meeting?
I would love to send you all the link for you to, review on maybe on your home computers. Yeah, it's almost done uploading. I should be able to send the rough cut tonight. It's very similar to the one that's already on the web, but yeah, just shortened.
Great, thank you. Any questions about summer informational meeting? Okay. That upcoming meetings and subcommittee reports.
That I will-
Thanks, John.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Planning board August 7th, anything else, Janet?
Not for a meeting.
Okay, go, town manager's report.
All right, I've given you Maine Community Foundation Endowment Fund from, it's a statement from January 1st through June 30th, 2023. It's at $1,516,935.53. I've given you minutes of the Energy Committee meeting of June 13th, the Lighthouse Restoration Committee minutes of July 13th, and emails that I received from Senator King and Senator Collins' offices stating that they're in support of the grant that Cressica applied for, the $845,000 to help construct and equip a new health center. And the final, this is probably, Cressica could correct me, but I think it's the second time we've received notice that
Yes.
they're pushing it on.
Yeah.
And I think the final determination is in December, late in the year.
Yeah, December, they'll be letting us know whether or not we've received the money. But we won't get the money until, May or June, maybe even later.
But we'll hear. That'd be great.
It's exciting.
Right, Jessica, do you want to add anything to that?
No, that sounds correct. We're basically just waiting on budget negotiations leading to the final Senate and House passage now. And then, like you said, the money would be delivered sometime mid-year next year.
So I wanted to mention about, I don't know if there's many people here who applied for the property tax stabilization program. I think you have to be 65 or older to apply for it. But I've heard from MMA that it's been repealed. This is just this 1 year. So we had 77 people, Tina said, apply for it, but one was disqualified. So there's 76 people that will take advantage of that this year. And we will be with Rob, the police, sending out letters to probably those 76 people, individual letters explaining what happened and so they understand it's a one-time thing, you know. Yeah. So letters have gone out by our RJD appraisals to all taxpayers, giving their new valuations and tentative tax amount. He has, on his calculation, set the mill rate for $11 per thousand assessed value. Last year we were 18, maybe. So there's going to be a lot of people coming out. There's a lot of increases, and they're going to have hearings. That's what their notice mentions. The date will be from August 14th through the 17th. They'll have 2 or 3 people in here, and we'll be making appointments for people. And Vern said something, reminded me of something, and you mentioned this before, the reval, that during a reval, lots of times 33% of people will go up, 33 will stay the same, and 33% will go down. We've already had one call from someone who did go down, a summer person, North Carmen. Like, really? All right. So that, I'm gonna tell Vern his theory was true. And that's all for me. We're waiting for next week and see how that goes, or the week after, the week of the 14th.
Did you see that on the letters that went out today? It tells when they are here to set the appointment.
Okay. It says August 14th, 16th, 17th. Should be. I can look. We'll get it all available at the Alsburg.
Did, and now I'm disappointed I didn't open it, because I just assumed it was like normal tax bill, and now I'm curious.
I would think it got
Half of mine is on the back and half of it's on the front.
Oh, really? How they folded them.
Yes, but it's because of the way that they were printed, and so. Okay, but no, I had somebody ask me when it was. I'll tell them to look back at their bill. Because this part is all the way down at the bottom.
Correct.
And
I
then
saw that,
half of that is at the top, and then it's folded from here.
Yeah, to get it in the window envelope, which is bad plan.
That's okay, but that way at least they know that it's in the top of it.
Yeah,
Did you say, can you say those dates again?
it starts on the 14th,
August 14th?
August 14th, it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And Friday they will be here also, but that's supposed to be his day to kind of go over things, but they could do another day, and depending on the flow and how many people want to be seen and aren't seen, and they'll come back and do more.
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering if it makes sense to ask them to do any kind of presentation to the board, either, I guess, after those meetings, just to kind of give that sort of big picture summary of, you know, the trends and how they saw them change, feedback that they heard from the community and that kind of thing, I think would be helpful.
That's a great idea.
Anything else?
No, sorry.
Any questions for Janet? All right, next up is the recognition of Carol Nichter for her years of service on the cemetery committee. Thank
He's
you.
out of town. I said, really? Said they're going to Boston. I said, you're going to Boston? Because I called you. So I don't know if you want me to, I told her what it was about, because she thought I was crazy. So if you want me to get her back here again, or.
Maybe move it to the next one.
Yeah,
Try again.
I'll say.
Great.
surprise her this time. Oh, that's right.
Certificate.
Yeah,
Yeah, the one that you all signed, I got it framed.
yeah.
We could go to her house.
You're not,
That'll be nice,
right,
right?
we don't, right, we don't want to force her and make her feel uncomfortable.
I know, I was
We do
afraid she
want
wouldn't come,
to
like-
be able to say thank you in person.
So I
for
told
all
her, then
she's
she said, oh, I'm not gonna be in town. I said, really? That's what I thought she was. But I will.
Right. Every other Wednesday.
We'll send the bill to her house.
Let's switch our schedule with the planning board.
Surprise!
You can be here.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
All right, we've already covered the memo on the ferry service. Next up is to authorize the collection of the FY 23 sewer taxes. Do I have a motion? Or I guess, is there any, do you want to present it first, Janet, before we move on?
This year's sewer bills, come to $21,852.75. And the click rate that I used this year was 11 cents a click, and they did not raise the basic rate of 400. That has stayed the same. Expenses were lower this year. They might have been, around $14,000. So the bulk of this, what's left over from when we get paid, I'm sticking back into and I talked with Craig Olson, the Dark Harbor Wastewater Reserve, Capital Reserve, which is very low right now, but we did budget for 20, I believe, to go into it. But we will, put some more money into it.
What was the click rate last year?
I think it was 9. I bumped it up 2. Our volume was down from last year, lower. The readings, some of these meters don't work consistently. So what I do is gauge it on the previous year. And I talked with the homeowner first, I had 3 people like that. I said, I'm just going to, instead of not billing them anything, I verified that they had been here. And just told them I'm gonna charge you what I did before, and they were fine. I did speak with someone from the Lincolnville treatment facility, and they use something called EIU, some kind of a different system where they identify the house. It's one family or something, and that's a different kind of system. They don't use meters. He said they don't use meters because everybody has a private well, which everybody here has a private well. So I don't know if that something would work for us, and it would save getting JT, who I can never get a hold of, to repair them. Right now, these 3 he's supposed to go look at. Watching them, having Jordan read them, to go through all this. And Mike Harris, our new operator for the system, is coming out tomorrow to go to the system, and he's gonna stop by here. He said he would talk with me. I said, well, we qualify for this, with our system. But I'll see what he says. I'd love to get rid of those meters.
Looks like the largest payer is the affordable property.
For some reason. Family. With lots of,
Hmm.
usually it's Craig Olin, he must have, some of his kids must be gone. Get all those girls.
Any questions on the sewer rates? Okay, I entertain a motion
Second,
to approve the sewer taxes. As presented, excellent, any further discussion? All those in favor?
I apologize.
I
like the way that works.
Just finishing for the.
Okay, other business.
Yeah, so, I emailed Jay at the very last second because I didn't get around doing it in the past week or 2 weeks. For a couple of different reasons, I would like to, tender my resignation from the sustainability committee.
Oh, sure.
And I'm just wondering what my next steps are for that, if it needs to be discussed, if it, you know, how do I just say, I'd like to be done with them, or?
And hopefully someone else would, you know,
Hood or blindfold?
What?
Hood or blindfold?
oh,
No, so I mean, I appreciate the thoughtfulness that you are bringing to it and, you know, respect that decision. And, you know, I think it makes sense maybe to put on our next, meeting's agenda to, fill that vacancy. And
Smells good.
It would be worth noting when that comes up, that it is not in fact an ex-officio position. It is in fact a full voting membership, which I was unaware of when I accepted it, so. They turned around and corrected.
I get to vote. I get confused with that in the broadband, because I can't vote at broadband. I can vote at sustainability, so I just don't vote.
So are you talking about the IESC?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be interested in attending that. If, I don't know if anybody else is interested. Is that what we're talking about?
Correct.
Yeah.
See, Pete's learning. He just started and you learn, you took that on. You learn.
Yeah, well, it's a number of things.
Yeah.
so much more, yeah.
I couldn't quite hear you.
I'll tell you what.
Okay.
Are you curious about, I mean, are you, want me to type an appointment for the next meeting? For economic
We're
sustainability?
talking about liaison, like other select board members, right?
Yeah, but
No.
you know, you're a
It's a
voting
voting
position.
position.
You
Oh,
vote.
voting member.
You actually
Oh,
vote.
that's right. I did know that. Oh, no. I would still be interested in it.
All right, then. Well, good, Pete. Good job.
Yeah, it was not gonna be a successful rock journey with that.
But I want to get off of all the other.
Night. You can give one random committee to Pete.
All right. I want to go to the cemetery.
It's like a trade.
Are you still looking for somebody for cemetery?
I'm not sure.
Okay,
I mean,
I'm like, I think we filled it.
could be.
Any other business? Okay, with that, let's approve some warrants. FY 23, number 26-4 accounts payable and FY 24, warrant number 3. Anyone make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? In favor?
Aye.
Great, and, we also have an appointment tonight, and we're Cooley, as a planning board alternate.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, and I have no further comments this evening.
Meeting adjourned. I have no comments.
Bill
No comment.
and Melissa.
School starts August 31st. Be very careful of busing, traffic, students and teachers that become frantically panicking as they were losing the last little bit of summer.
We finally saw it and now it's being ripped away from us.
All right. Motion to adjourn. So moved. To find these two before you.
Thank you very much.
Good meeting.
Yes, we're adjourned.
You missed voting on me?
No, I was on the, so moved it.
Oh, someone